Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare చూసుకోండి ఒకసారి
నేను ఎందుకు వెళ్తాను ఎయిర్పోర్ట్ దాకా లైవ్ స్ట్రీమ్ స్టార్ట్ అయిందా?
స్టార్ట్ అయింది.
ఎక్కడికి ఆయన వచ్చేసి 10 minutes 7 minutes పడుతుంది. మేము ఇప్పుడే వచ్చాం. సెటప్ అయితే నడుస్తాం. సెటప్ అయిపోయింది అందరూ వచ్చేసి. ఎక్కడున్నారు మీరు? హరే కృష్ణ. మరి చక్కగా రండి రండి. బాగానే ఉంది. ఇంకా కొన్ని కరెక్షన్ చేయాలి. వెనకాల టెక్స్ట్ కనిపించట్లేదు కొద్దిగా. మీరు ఇంతే స్పేస్లో మొత్తం భారత రాజస్థాన్ అంటే ఎట్లా అవుతుంది? పైన మరొక ప్రేయర్ పెట్టారు, కిందని చాంట్ 108 times. అది కొద్దిగా చిన్నగా అయింది, నాకు కొద్దిగా పెద్దగా చేయాలి. కనిపిస్తుంది, నాకు కనిపించట్లేదు. అది ప్రభుజీ 2000 కొట్టించేసుకున్నాను. నాకు
పంపిస్తా. దీని ఈక్వలెంట్ తెలుగు పంపిస్తా. దీని ఈక్వలెంట్ తెలుగు పంపిస్తా.
నాకు కొంచెం హెల్ప్ చేస్తాను. స్టార్టింగ్ ఒకసారి
చాటింగ్ చేస్తుంది.
ఎవరిది చాంటింగ్ ఇప్పుడు ఉంది? చాంటింగ్
దీన్ని ఇచ్చే దగ్గర పెట్టడానికి ఉందని చెప్పేసి 5 లక్షల రూపాయలు అయితే పెట్టుకొని చేస్తా ఇలా పెట్టుకొని చేయొద్దా చాటింగ్
చేయాలి ప్రభు ఇది, ఎందుకంటే డబుల్ సైడ్ టేప్ ఇది చేసింది అందరికీ నచ్చితే చేద్దాం. బాగున్నది అది వెనకట్లేమో ఇది అడ్రస్ ఉంటుంది ప్రభు, అది వెనకట్లు తిప్పండి కింద కింద చూడండి ఎప్పుడు యూజ్ చేయలేదు మరి మా తయారు చేసి ఇస్తా ప్రభు. అది పిన్ చేయాలంటే శానిటరీ పెట్టండి డబల్ సైడ్ చేసి తీసుకొస్తాం. నిన్న శాంపుల్ ప్రింట్ చేయించాం. మీ దగ్గర నుంచి
శలాకయా చక్షురున్మిలితం తస్మై శ్రీ గురవే నమః. ఓం విష్ణుపాదాయ కృష్ణపరమాత్మనే భూతలే శ్రీమతే భక్తివేదాంత స్వామినిధి నామినే నమస్తే సరస్వతీ దేవే గౌరవాణి ప్రచారిణి నిర్విశేష శూన్యవాది పాశ్చాత్య దేశధారిణి వాञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद
టైటిల్ పెట్టలే
श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे.
May God please guide us so that we can see things not just in their immediate smaller context, but see them in their bigger, fuller context and understand the way you work in a way that protects our faith. Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming today, and it's not audible. Today we are continuing our discussion on Karna, and we were focusing in the previous session on the backstory of Karna, and there we discussed 3 key incidents in his life, and the focus was more on that life is unfair to everyone. Life is unfair to everyone, just as it was unfair to Karna, it was unfair to Arjuna also. So his decision about acting to support Duryodhana could be said to out of ignorance in the first interaction. The second was wrong where he insulted Draupadi, but that could be even attributed to the heat of the circumstance, where everybody acted wrongfully, almost everybody except Draupadi. And the last incident where he rejected Krishna's proposal, that was, it cannot be attributed to circumstance. He's thinking, he's reasoning, and he is making a clear wrong choice. So in that sense, the difference between him and Bhishma is that when Bhishma consented or remained silent when bad things were happening, or opposed but didn't oppose forcefully enough, Karna practically never opposed. And in fact, it was because of his support that many of the bad things were done by Duryodhana. Now, on the 16th day when he became the commander, this was his moment of glory. And the Kaurava troops were already weakening. At least the decisive advantage that they had in terms of numbers had been more or less whittled out. And at this point, the numbers were evenly matched, but the morale was uneven. The momentum was more on the side of the Pandavas. And the 16th and the 17th days were the days when it was for Karna to show his prowess. And especially on the 16th day, on one side, Duryodhana wanted Karna to challenge Arjuna quickly. But on the other side, he knew that for him, Karna was practically his last hope. So while he had confidence in Karna, the history itself was not on Karna's side. So in the sense that if we look at the encounters between Karna and Arjuna, they had been at multiple places, direct and indirect. So if we look at the martial exhibition, where there was the first encounter, and in that martial exhibition, so we are talking about the Karna Arjuna, you could call it the score line. So here it was 0-0. Karna said, I will exceed Arjuna, but he could not exceed Arjuna. Then after that, there was the war against Drupada. Basically, that after the martial exhibition was completed, then both sides, all the students went and asked Drona that what Guru Dakshina can we give you? And he said that I want you to arrest Drona. No, sorry, Drupada. Drona said, I want to arrest Drupada. And he said this to all the students, basically. They all came as a group to him. And all of them started off. Now Karna had already joined Duryodhana's ranks. So when they were all racing forward, Arjuna said, let them go first. Now, they went and charged Drona. And they fought ferociously, but Drona, Vyuna, Shikandi, Drupada, all of them, they eventually defeated the Kauravas. And then, after that, the Pandavas marched forth. And Arjuna especially was so ferocious that Drupada just, that was the time that Drupada desired that, I want to have a daughter who would marry Arjuna. I'm sorry, I don't think Krishna was born at this time. Both of them were born later, sorry. So Drupada himself defeated the Kauravas at that time. This is Drupada with his forces. And after that, we may talk about Drona Drupada rivalry later in the question answers tomorrow or day after tomorrow. But at this particular point, so basically what happened was we could say Karna was on the side that was defeated by Drupada. And then Arjuna defeated Drupada. So now we could say this is 1-0. It's not a completely fair fight. We could say that Drupada was tired after fighting with Karna, and that's why he was not at his best. That's a fair argument. But still, ultimately results count. So you may say that 1-0 might not be the most decisive, but that was one encounter. Now, after this, there was the encounter in Draupadi Swayamvar. Now, whatever happened with respect to the target, there are different versions. Karna was not allowed to participate. Madhacharya says that Karna was, his participation was challenged. And then finally, there was a dispute, and then he was allowed to participate. But because he was so agitated at that time, because his position had been challenged, that he just missed the target. But either way, let's put that aside, because the main version is that he was not allowed. So, after that, when Arjuna won the hand of Draupadi, the Kshatriyas got enraged. They said that this Drupada has invited all of us for his daughter Swayamvar, and then he has given his daughter to someone else. This is an insult to us, and we will teach him a lesson. And we want that no other Kshatriya king should ever insult Kshatriyas like this. And they all charged towards it. Now Drupada had got a sword, but just the odds were too much against him. And at that time, Yudhishthira told Arjuna that he's a relative now, he's a father-in-law, we have to protect him. And Arjuna was still carrying the bow, and he picked it up and moved forward. And Deva had been itching for a fight. Living as a Brahmana had been the most difficult among all the Pandavas for Bhima. So Bhima just looked around, and he saw a giant solitary. And he was in the palace itself. And so his eyes just lit up, because he didn't have a weapon. And Yudhishthira understood. He said, "Oh Bhima, if you uproot that tree, everybody will know that you are Bhima. So use some more ordinary weapon." And then he just picked up a bar and then stabbing everyone with the bar. And then eventually the fight was between Bhima and Shalya, and Bhima overcame Shalya. And then Arjuna was still a Brahmana. The various kings attacked, but Arjuna's arrows were so sharp that most of them fell back. Karna alone proceeded. And Karna fought on, and Arjuna equaled all of it. And then Karna finally lowered his bow. He said that now he was anyway not going to get Draupadi. He was not going to escape. He said he didn't have much invested in the fight. It was a Kshatriya's fight, and just now he had been rebuffed as a part of the Kshatriyas. So he said that the Brahmanas are always respectable to the Kshatriyas. Therefore, I do not wish to fight with you. So this was also a draw. So the overall score line remained 1-0. So you could say so. You could put here. It was a draw, 0-0. Now after this, there was the fight with the Gandharvas. Now this was in the forest when the Kauravas were living in prosperity and the Pandavas were in exile. But Duryodhana was so restless that he wanted to parade his prosperity on the Pandavas. And that's why he went with all his prosperity. And he went on one side of the river, and the Pandavas on the other side of the river. And the Gandharvas were there, and they said, "This is part of the earth meant for us." And Duryodhana felt like the whole earth was his now. Who are these people? He said, sometimes there are party spoilers. One person plans a party over there, and somebody says, "We already have a event over there." So now the Gandharvas were enjoying over there, and Duryodhana wanted to enjoy over there. So there was a dispute over the venue. And the dispute was there, it became a fight. And the Gandharvas injured Karna, Gandharva was injured, Shakuni injured Dushasana. Now, again in this particular case, Karna was not very invested in the fight. It was Duryodhan who really wanted to show his superiority, and Karna had nothing against the Gandharvas. So Karna retreated, and then Duryodhan was arrested. And then after that, at Yudhishthira's request, Bhima and Arjuna came together, and especially it was Arjuna who fought with the Gandharvas. Bhima did not get involved directly in the fight, especially the head of the Gandharva, Chitrangala. So there, basically here what happened was, again, Karna was defeated by the Gandharva, and then that very Gandharva, Arjuna defeated him. So here also, what happened was, Arjuna won in one sense. Here also it's 1-0, but the overall score becomes 2-0 now. Now, all of these were, you could say, indirect fights. And again, the same argument could be used that the Gandharva was tired after fighting with Karna. So, these could be said to be, we could put a small question mark there, because both of them are indirect. And indirect, and also, as I said, it is circumstantially that fighting is physically exhausting. But then the most direct fight was at Virat. Now here we could take the same argument and use it against Arjuna, or for Arjuna's sake. In the sense that although it was not that all the Kaurava warriors attacked Arjuna simultaneously, it was not like it was done to Abhimanyu in the war. It was Arjuna against the entire Kaurava army, but it was one Kaurava warrior coming forward and challenging. So in that sense, well, Arjuna defeated the entire Kaurava army, and Arjuna defeated Karna also. So Karna tried twice to attack, and each time he was repelled. He was injured and fell back. So here, this was the cleanest victory for Arjuna. So because here all the odds, let us put it Arjuna versus Karna, because we have to take one on this side. So Arjuna and Karna. So this was the cleanest fight, and the odds were against Arjuna, because he had to fight against multiple warriors. Karna could rest and he could come back again. So this was fair and square. There was no question about it. Now, some people say that in this particular fight, Karna did not have the Shakti Astra. He had not carried the Shakti Astra. Well, that is true. He was not expecting to find Arjuna. Although, in many ways, Duryodhana had launched that attack against the Kaurava, against Virat's kingdom, because he suspected the Pandavas were there. Because Kichak had been mysteriously killed, and Kichak was the brother-in-law of the king of Virat, and he was extremely powerful and extremely tyrannical also. So he had been killed, and very few people were capable of killing him, and Bhima was one among them. So he did suspect. But his not carrying a weapon with him was a mistake on his part. So basically, the total scoreline is 3-0, or if not, at least 1-0. There is no doubt about this, that there is no time when Karna was actually better than Arjuna. So now some people say that actually Karna got. There are many arguments here, and here the point is we are not going to establish here necessarily that Karna is the inferior Arjuna, because in matches, in real encounters, there are many factors that come into play. The point I'm going to make is that it was not that Arjuna had to use some unfair means to defeat Karna, because Karna was the better warrior, and the only way he could be defeated was by resorting to something unfair. That is not true. So, as far as the historical record goes, Karna had not proven himself to be better than Arjuna even once. Now, there is one area where Karna did do well, that is when the Pandavas were going to perform the Rajasuya Yajna. So, Yudhishthira sent his 4 brothers in 4 directions, and he defeated they all defeated various kings in different directions. And that's how he was able to perform the Rajasuya. When the Pandavas were exiled, at that time, Duryodhana also wanted to perform a similar yajna. And when he wanted to perform the similar yajna, at that time he said that the Rajasuya yajna cannot be performed, the Brahmanas told him, because the previous king is still living. So this you can perform a Vaishnava yajna. Now he had no interest in Vishnu. And his purpose of performing the Vaishnava yajna was not to please Vishnu. It was to please his own ego. Krishna says, Yajante nama yajnaiste. Some people do yajna not of naam but for naam. They do it for name and fame. That was his interest. Now at this time, Karna alone went in all the four directions. And he defeated him. So now was this a feat greater than Arjuna's feat? Yes. But was this indicating that Arjuna could not have done this? Not necessarily. Arjuna could also have done it, but there were four brothers and Yudhishthira engaged all of them. So yes, Karna was meritorious. His archery skills are not to be disputed. Now, when the final war started, so Duryodhana on one side had confidence in Karna, but on the other side he also had fear that if Karna falls, then I'm lost. So he wanted that Arjuna be exhausted by fighting with others, and then Karna fight against him. So that's why he arranged in such a way that Karna will fight with other soldiers, some of his foremost warriors would fight with Arjuna. Now this was a high stakes maneuver because on one side it could work both ways. Karna would also get exhausted, isn't it? But his hope was that if he uses best forces against Arjuna, then that would mean that Arjuna would get exhausted. Of course, Arjuna would kill those forces and numbers would go down. So Duryodhana was becoming desperate. Now Karna went along with the strategy because Karna also wanted to show his glory. Now with Arjuna, whether he would win or not, it was almost like a dice throw. He didn't know. But he wanted to make his mark, establish his prowess. So on the 16th and the 17th days, Karna rampaged on the war field, destroying the Pandava forces. And he encountered one by one all the Pandavas other than Arjuna. And he defeated all of them. And it's when one warrior defeats another warrior, there are multiple ways that can play out. Once a person is defeated, you can kill that person. The other is that you can let that person go, or somebody else takes that person away. That charioteer takes them away, or somebody else comes in and saves them. In these cases, Karna defeated all of them. And his attack was so fierce that practically no one could come to save. And then, after that, he humiliated all of them. So with Sahadev, with Nakula, after he had destroyed their bow and arrow, and after he had destroyed their armor, after he had destroyed their chariot, after he had killed their charioteer, and the only thing they could do is get off the chariot and run to some other chariot for shelter, and then that chariot would take them away. So at that time, Karna would march up to them and then hit them on the head with his bow. And that was, he told Nakula and Sahadev, you should fight with your equals. So, don't fight with your superiors. I have mercy on you, so you can live now. Now, he tried to do the same thing to Bhima. He went and hit Bhima on his head. And he said, don't fight with your superiors. And Bhima said, I can kill you with my bare hands right now. and we'll see who is superior. So Karna became a bit alarmed by that. But then he said, but because Arjuna has taken a vow to kill you, so I am letting you go, and Partha will soon destroy you and your ego. He says, why do you brag? In this war itself, we have had many fights. And there are times when I have defeated you also. So, especially it happened on the middle of the 14th day, when Arjuna was charging towards Jayadratha, Bhima and Karna had encountered. And that was not the day Bhima clearly won, but Bhima held on to Karna, held his ground, and finally, what happened was, Karna was called by Duryodhana that we'll attack Arjuna and we'll defend Jayadratha. So Karna left. So in one sense, the fight was going on and Karna left. So that could be seen as a defeat. But so that he did, and he was humiliated. And finally, on the 17th day, Yudhishthira challenged Karna, and they had a fierce fight. Now, Yudhishthira saw that Karna was destroying his army and Arjuna was engaged elsewhere. And then, therefore, he challenged and he was utterly defeated. And he was completely humiliated. And then, Karna let him go. Now, for Yudhishthira, there had been times when he had been, because he had been the target of the attacks. Drona had also done that. But Drona was his guru. And being defeated by Drona was not humiliating. But being defeated by Karna, and then Yudhishthira had to get off his chariot and run to another chariot. And this was the king and everybody saw it. So Yudhishthira felt especially humiliated. And now all the Pandavas were mystified. Why is Karna not killing us? Interestingly, on the other side, Duryodhana also had this question. Is Karna going soft? But by this time, things were tense. And Duryodhana questioned Karna, and Karna was the commander, and Duryodhana needed Karna. So Karna said that, by letting them live, I will cause more fear in their camp than by killing them. Now that's questionable, but his idea was that it's such an assertion of confidence that you are not a threat to me at all. That's why I don't have to kill you. So he says he wanted to say he portrayed it as if it was a messaging. In a physical war, a mental war is also going on. That you are such an inconsequential threat for me that I can defeat you anytime. So he portrayed it like that. Now, of course, why did he not kill the Pandava brothers? Yes, because he had given his word to Kunti. Now, some people say that Kunti, by telling Karna that the Pandavas were his brothers, weakened him. And that's why he was not able to fight wholeheartedly, while the Pandavas fought wholeheartedly against him, because they didn't know that he was his brother. Now, there is no indication that Karna fought any less vehemently, just because of the affection, because whether he felt any affection for the Pandavas, that they were his brothers. In whatever dialogues are found in the Mahabharat, when he speaks, if he really had affection for his brothers, and that's why he was not fighting wholeheartedly, then why would he humiliate them? For a Kshatriya, dishonor, as Krishna says, is worse than death. Maranad adirichate, sambhavita sichapiti, 134 he says that. So he did humiliate them. And it was not a playful humiliation, it was a public and severe humiliation. So there is no indication that the knowledge of that relationship weakened him. Because again, we know this also from the point that he didn't want to be a part of he felt that accepting Kunti's motherhood publicly would mean that he would be rejecting his parents. That was not the case, but that's how he saw it. So there doesn't seem to have been any affection for any of the Pandavas, and he also was not that when Kunti told you, you are my mother, it was not that there was a great affection between them. He only felt you abandoned me, and there was anger, and that anger is understandable. So again, the point here is not to paint Karna as the bad guy. The point is that why did he do what he did? It was not that he was weakened by that knowledge of affection. Now when Yudhishthir was not only defeated, but Yudhishthir was also severely wounded, and then he was rushed back to the tent for treatment. Now when the fight was going on, Krishna told Krishna saw that Arjuna, while he was fighting, he did not seem to be fighting wholeheartedly. So Krishna sensed that Arjuna was worried for Yudhishthira. That is he safe? Is he been severely wounded? He had heard about what had happened. So Krishna told Arjuna, let us go and see Yudhishthira. And once your mind is pacified that Yudhishthira is okay, then you can come back and fight wholeheartedly. So that's what Arjuna also wanted to do. And Arjuna told Bhima that you can, basically Drishtadyumna had been the commander, but Drishtadyumna had been the commander primarily to counter Drona. There is a mental game that was going on. And effectively, Drishtadyumna was not really leading all the time. And because there had been this tension between, Arjuna had felt angry with Drishtadyumna. So, especially after the 15th day, Drishtadyumna's role also became significantly lesser. So, essentially, Arjuna told Bhima that, can you handle the war while I go and see Yudhishthira? And Bhima said yes. Bhima was also concerned about Yudhishthira. So when he went back, at that time Yudhishthira still burning with anger at the feeling of mortification, of humiliation. And he saw Arjuna coming. He said, Arjuna, thank God that you have defeated and killed Karna. That wretched son of Sutta had been destroying our army and had been longing for his death. And it is wonderful that finally rid the earth of that Karna. Now our victory is guaranteed. And now Arjuna became a little embarrassed by this. He said, "Oh king, you misunderstand the situation. I have not yet fought with you. I was concerned about your well-being and I came to see you." Now, Yudhishthira is so humiliated at one level. See, the war has been going on 15, 16 days, 17th day now. And everybody was a bit on their edge. Everybody's nerves were frayed. And especially after the killing of Drona, things were tense in the Pandava camp also. So, Yudhishthira just exploded. He said, "How do you think I will be well when the person who has humiliated me publicly is destroying our army? Is your coming to see my well-being just your excuse for not fighting with Karna? Was all your promise that you will defeat Karna just hollow? If you don't have the courage to fight with Karna, then put aside your Gandhi." And Yudhishthira went on a bit of a rampage, tirade basically. And when Arjuna heard, Yudhishthira said, "You put aside his Gandhi, you are not worth it." So Krishna saw Arjuna took out his sword. He said, "What are you doing? There is no enemy over here." Now Yudhishthira had been wounded and he was lying on bed basically, he was recovering. So Arjuna said, "I had taken a vow that anybody who tells me to put aside my Gandiva bow, to cast aside because I am unworthy of it, I will kill that person." your brother, this is your king. How can you kill him? Have you lost your mind? He said that Krishna spoke to him very strongly, and Arjuna said, what you say is true, but I have taken a vow. And who will I be if I don't honor my vow? Now, this is where the pragmatic sense is displayed. Like we discussed earlier, Bhishma was bound by his vow, Karna was bound by his vow, and now Arjuna also felt bound by his vow. So, now the word of honor is very important for Kshatriyas. In one sense, the idea is that Kshatriyas have great power. In fact, we could say, in the earthly domain, the king has the highest power. And now we could say, of course, God is in charge and God has a supreme power. But at the same time, the idea is that everybody needs to be bound so that they don't misuse their power. And one of the ways, we can say, ultimately everybody is bound by karma, and that's how, by time, karma and kala. But the way, the idea was that Kshatriyas adhere to a certain code of conduct. That's generally expected, but specifically when they give their word, that word of honor was meant to inspire them to act on the right thing. I promise to do the right thing, and then I will do the right thing. So, now many times we make a promise, and then that very promise prevents us from doing the right thing. So, so what happens is that this is where the principle of niyamagraha comes in. Niyamagraha is, as you know, two extremes to it. One is niyamagraha, you don't care at all for the rule, or niyamagraha, where we insist on the rule and without considering the spirit. If we stick to the letter without focusing on the spirit. So we could say that there is, now this is specifically about the promise, it's similar to niyamagraha, but there are our words, and then there are sometimes our words in terms of the vows, the commitment that we make. Now sometimes the vows we stay true to them, and then we don't stay true. Now we do the right action and we do the wrong action. So the whole idea is that the words that we make, should keep us in this quadrant. That our word should ensure that we do the right action. So now the problem is, sometimes to do the right action, we may have to go beyond our word or go against our word. Because our words can't predict all the various situations. One of the consistent themes in the Mahabharat is that dharma is very difficult to determine. The whole Mahabharat is a search for dharma. It's like every book has a driving question that so this is one major difference between Mahabharata and the Bhagavatam is the driving question, and again Mahabharata and the Ramayana also. So in the Mahabharata, in the Bhagavatam, what is the driving question? No, what is the driving question?
What is better
Dharma, but
for a dying person?
yes, what is dharma at the antakal? And the answer is very unambiguous. The dharma is that you should remember the Lord. Tasma, that you should always remember the Lord. The ante narayana smriti. And for that, always you should try to remember the Lord. But that is very clear. Now with respect to the Ramayana, what is the driving question? Who is the ideal person? What are the characteristics of the ideal person? So, and the answer is Ram. Now, most of his actions are ideal, and some of them, they can be questioned. But again, we need to look at a bigger picture. But the Mahabharata is a book where the question itself is not answered. Like, rather than giving one definition of dharma, dharma is itself very complex. And it is, at the end of the Mahabharata, it is said that everybody is still thinking, what is dharma? So, the idea is, dharma is not easy to do. And that's because life is tough. Now, of course, we have principles. Like Prabhupada said, dharma tu sakshat bhagavad pranita. The words of the Lord are dharma. Then we could say the words of scripture are dharma. That is all true. Then how do those words apply at particular times? For that, we need to use our intentions. Now, in one sense, if you see, Krishna told Arjuna, Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Surrender to me. But then that same Krishna, when Ashwatthama had to be punished, Krishna actually remained silent. Isn't it? We know that incident later on, that Bhima wanted to punish him, Yudhishthira didn't want. Draupadi also said, let him go. But Arjuna had to make the decision. And Krishna did not tell Arjuna, even through his signals, what he should do. Arjuna made the decision. So ultimately, it is for us to determine that. Now, of course, we can consult our gurus and our senior devotees, and that's important, no doubt. We study Shastra. But ultimately, it is, Prabhupada said, we have to fly our own planes. We who have to decide. So, dharma is difficult. And there are no quick solutions to it. So, the idea is that once the devotees were in, I think was Vishakha Mataji or one of the Prabhupada disciples who was in India. Mataji, she told me that, that when we were with Prabhupada, we realized that Krishna consciousness is an adventure. Now, we could say the adventure is, of course, you travel to new places, you open new centers. Prabhupada has triggered the spirit of adventure. 1968, when Prabhupada came back to America, he had been sick a little bit, gone to India for recovery. When he came back, that all his senior devotees were disciples were there to meet him. And Prabhupada asked there be a globe brought over there. And Prabhupada said to all his disciples, the Krishna consciousness is meant for the entire world. He says, all of you, pick one country, go there and deliver them. Then Jadurani Mataji was a very young disciple, 19. Prabhupada says, Prabhupada, what about us girls? He said, we are not boys or girls, we are souls. You also pick up one country. So, Prabhupada had that spirit of adventure. And Prabhupada infused that spirit of adventure in others. But it's not just the external adventure. What he meant was that in a particular situation, what will serve the purpose of Krishna? What will please Krishna? What will help a person grow? That is not something which can be done with a stereotype. There are rules and then the purpose of the rules. So, Shanali told us a specific incident. He said that they were in Mumbai and they had gone to the house of a life member, or a person who later became a life member, very, very pious Hindu person. And when the food was served, the food had onion garlic. Or it had onion. And when they were about to take the food, and then one devotee said, Prabhupada, there's onion over there. And Prabhupada said, Prabhupada, there's no onion in this. He said, no, Prabhupada, there's onion in this. And Prabhupada became more clear. He said, there is no onion in this. This devotee actually took out an onion and showed to Prabhupada. And he brought him to Prabhupada. He said, looking at the onion, Prabhupada looked at him. There is no onion in this. And he just became silent after that. And then they all took their food. And then after that, when Prabhupada was going back, Prabhupada said, it was our mistake that we did not tell them so clearly that we don't take food with onion. He said that for an Indian household, for a pious Hindu household, older, a sannyasi comes to their home and sits down to take food and then goes away without taking food. And that is considered a great disaster. It's considered like a dharmanash. And that's why when Durvasa Muni came with so many sages, and I was giving a talk in America, and when I was telling the story to some American devotees, so an American Mataji asked, he said, what's wrong with it? There is no food today. So that sometimes some cultural aspects are in the genes, and that it may be a factual statement, but we just cannot make a factual statement. So there was one sannyasi, he told me that, he said, going to Indian households is very difficult. I feel like when I'm eating food, I am walking on a minefield. That is not at all the intention. He said that, I was at one devotee's home and I asked them. So they had made some orange juice. And I asked, this is nice, is there more? And I was talking, I had to go for a next program. They said, please wait, Maharaj, please wait, Maharaj, please wait, Maharaj. And this is the devotees, they didn't have any orange juice. So they went out, they purchased the orange, and then they made the juice and they brought for me. So I said it was an inquiry, it was not an instruction. He said that you would have told me that the juice is not there. So he said, no Maharaj, our culture is so that we cannot tell like this. So he said that, if I had wanted it, I would have insisted. I said, can you arrange for it? So he said sometimes, when I go to Indian homes, I don't even ask for extra helping unless they offer it first. So the point here is that, of course, that Prabhupada was not using this as a license that we should eat food from India. Definitely not. Every example can be distorted. But the point is that Prabhupada considered not agitating or devastating, or you could say it was not just agitation, it would be devastation for them. Prabhupada just left their home without taking any food. So not agitating them, more important than sticking to the rule of eating food without onion garlic. Now, is that something we should be normally doing? No, that's not the point over here. But the point is that how will we be serving Krishna's purpose when? That has to be decided upon time, place, circumstance. And now who can decide that? Can be off now? Sometimes time, place, circumstance can be just an excuse for convenience. Time, place, circumstance, we have to adjust. Yeah, we have to adjust. That is true to that. But what are we adjusting for? Are we adjusting for Krishna's purpose, or are we adjusting for our convenience? Now sometimes it may be required to adjust for our convenience also. Let us be honest about it. For me, this is too inconvenient, this is too difficult for me. So, I cannot do this. So then acknowledge that, okay, this is a lower standard, this is where I am at. And this is because I am doing so many other things in my life. And that's why I cannot do this. So if some devotee is in a place where there is, the devotee has a very demanding job, and now of course with the vegan culture spreading across the world, vegetarian food is always available somewhere or the other. But one devotee told me he had a job in South Korea, about 15 years ago he had to go. And he said, there, vegetarian food was not available anywhere. One devotee showed me a cartoon, it was about 15, 17 years ago. He said, one person asking, an American is asking another American. He says, are you a vegetarian? I'm an American. So as the implication is, American cannot be a vegetarian. So that idea, so he said, so he asked his guru at that time. So he had a very demanding job, and he had gone as a doctor. So he was in emergency duty, very, very demanding. And he said he barely had time to complete his rounds. He said, I could get the ingredients and I could cook my food, but then I would not be able to do my rounds. You could always say, sleepless. But there is only so little we can sleep. And especially if you're an emergency doctor, you cannot afford to be sleepy while you're doing this life-saving surgery for people. In most jobs, you cannot afford to be sleepy, but some jobs, the stakes are far higher than others. So they talked with spiritual master, and spiritual master said that actually, at that time you just get food, whatever you can get, and you do the needful. So the point over here is that there is the letter of the law and there is the spirit of the law. And sometimes doing the right thing requires, now again this requires that we may need to put aside the letter of the law. We may need to put aside our words. So again, this is not meant to be a license. It is meant there are exceptional situations. But if the exceptional situations are becoming regular situations, then there is some change in the lifestyle that we need to. And if an emergency that is happening every day, then it's not that the situation is an emergency, our life is an emergency. Isn't it? We cannot use the exception as a normal for all situations. But in this case, Krishna said, he's your brother. How can you kill him? So there is he had taken that vow so that basically he would always fight honorably. And that a Kshatriya rules not just by power, but also by fear. Now, fear can be healthy, fear can be unhealthy. Now, fear can be in the sense of terror, where people look constantly that, one wrong and he will be destroyed. But fear can also be healthy, that everybody needs to have some fear of the law. So, if people go drive way above the speed limit, if somebody drives drunk, they should have fear that the police will catch me and they will take away my license. So fear is not a bad thing. Always. Madhvayat vati vato. Suryas tapati madhvayat. That the sun moves out of fear of me. Kapila says in the third canto of the Bhagavad. The wind moves out of fear of me. This fear is more like the respect. So there has to be a healthy fear of the Lord. So in the Bible also it is said, fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. It is not the end of wisdom. Love of God is the end of wisdom. But fear of God is important. So similarly, Kshatriyas do need to be able to have some fear. Fear that what do you say? That this king is powerful enough to punish you. And therefore I should not do any wrong. So there are often these mistranslations of the Gita that come up, and some people try to portray that the Gita is a violence-inducing book. So there was one devotee who sent me a translation of the Gita, and it is Krishna is throughout referring to Arjuna as a terrorist. Oh, terrorists, destroy your enemies. Where do you find the word terrorist in the Bhagavad Gita? So what that person had done is, he had taken the word Parantapa. Parantapa, and he had used it throughout for Arjuna. And Parantapa, what does it mean? Paran is others. Tapa is one who causes heat in them, who causes fear in them. So now, this fear is not terror. The word terrorist that is used, terrorists are especially, the word is used especially is the antithesis of Kshatriya principles. The Kshatriyas are meant to fight against warriors, not target civilians. Terrorists target only civilians. So it's completely the antithesis of Kshatriya values. But the point is, a king who strikes terror in the heart of the enemies, that is not a terrorist. But so the point is that there has to be a fear. And so when Arjuna had taken this vow, it was that I am competent enough to punish any enemy. Anybody says that you are so weak that you cannot fight against this enemy, so you put aside your bow. Just give up fighting. So that vow was for a particular purpose. So sometimes the letter of the law helps us to, the letter of the law or the little words of our vow help us to fulfill the purpose of the law. But sometimes they may not. Sometimes we may have to do the opposite. Or rather, sometimes sticking to the letter can defeat the purpose. So what happened was, in this case, Arjuna was tending to be here. Arjuna with Yudhishthira was here. That is, in sticking to the word, he was doing what would have destroyed the whole kingdom. And then Krishna's guidance brought him here. So now, unfortunately, Bhishma, Drona, Bhishma or Karna, they did not take Krishna's guidance. For whatever reason, Krishna was not a factor in their lives. So Bhishma was stuck here, and Karna also stayed stuck over here. So sometimes we may have to give up our word so that we could do the right action. The word is, so dharma, I started by talking about dharma is complicated. Now, we may today think, what is complicated? You cannot kill your brother, that's stupid. But for Arjuna, it was a serious thing. And Arjuna accepted Krishna's word, but still he said, actually Krishna, I have given my word, what do I do? So then Krishna had to give Arjuna a solution. Said, actually, for a warrior, being insulted is worse than death. So he said, you insult Yudhishthira. And then now all this was happening and Yudhishthira was watching it. Now they were at a little distance and Yudhishthira was not exactly able to hear what was happening, what Krishna and Arjuna were talking. So Yudhishthira was watching and suddenly, initially Arjuna took out his sword and he said, what are you doing? And then Arjuna put aside his sword, but then he started insulting Yudhishthira. It is because of your addiction to gambling that Draupadi was dishonored. It is because of you that we all had to go to the forest. It is because of you that Bhima had to become like a cook. It is because of you that I had to live like a eunuch. It just went on a rampage. And Yudhishthira was so afflicted by that. And then Krishna, so when Arjuna finished speaking, Krishna saw that Yudhishthira had somehow struggled up from his bed. And he said, okay Shiva, Arjuna is right. I will go to the forest, let Bhima become the next king. And Krishna said, what do you brothers have got, Do you got, have you got a death wish? So then Arjuna fell at Yudhishthira's feet and he said, he explained what had happened. That I had taken this vow and you spoke this. None of what I spoke is true. Now that you are virtuous and you have guided us all in virtue and you have protected us. So he spoke all those things. But Yudhishthira, those words stayed with him. And that is also one factor eventually when Yudhishthira decided I don't want to become the king. But at this point, Arjuna said that I will go back right now and I will kill Karna. So rest assured that today, the sun, when the sun sets, Karna will not be alive. And then Yudhishthira felt pacified. And then Karna went back in the battlefield. Now Bhima had been fighting. You could see that Karna was devastating the army. And Bhima was about to challenge Karna this time again. Now, but Bhima also felt that seeing how Karna was destroying his army, Bhima felt that I will not be able to restrain myself. If I get the upper hand on Karna, I'll just destroy him. So during this time, while Karna was fighting, we will talk about Bhima killing Dushasan and others a little later. But then Arjuna went back to the battlefield. And then when Arjuna came back, Bhima observed and Bhima felt relieved. Not only was Arjuna back on the battlefield to fight, but that meant also Yudhishthira was safe. And then all the Pandava soldiers cheered. In a cricket match, if a top fielder, top bowler goes out of the field. If he's injured, this injury so much that he's not going to come back, everybody is nervous. And when that top player comes back, everybody cheers. So Arjuna was by far the top archer. And then the final fight began. The fight went on and on and on. And eventually, knowing how important this fight was, the whole battlefield turned almost into something like a spectator sport. That means everybody else stopped fighting. And both sides, everybody just started watching. Now they're not just watching, they of course came to support. But eventually both of them were using such fierce celestial weapons that anybody who came nearby would just scorch to death. By just not even the weapon being targeted at them, just the impact of the weapons in the nearby. So everybody was watching from a distance. And then Yudhishthira also returned. And seeing Yudhishthira back, the Pandava soldiers and warriors cheered him. And Arjuna kept fighting. And as the fighting was going on and on, it seemed as if sometimes Karna would get the upper hand. Sometimes Arjuna would get the upper hand. And there is no clear winner. The war was just going on and on. The duel was going on and on. And then Krishna told Arjuna, this is the time for you to be at your best. He says, do not let this opportunity slip from you. Now before this final encounter started, both of them knew that one of them is not going to go back alive. So Arjuna asked Shalya, we'll talk about Shalya's role a little later. Arjuna asked Shalya Karna asked Shalya, he said, if Partha kills me today, what will you do? So he says, I will drive forth on my chariot and I will do my best to destroy those who kill you. And if I cannot, I will die fighting. Now before this, Shalya had discouraged Karna, and that's a different story. But at this particular point, it was not that Shalya sabotaged Karna over here. Yes, there was discouragement before. But in this final fight, Shalya was there. Now Arjuna turned to Krishna. And I said, okay Shiva, if Karna kills me today, what will you do? So Krishna became extremely grave, almost angry. He said, oh Arjuna, the sun may lose its effulgence, the rivers may stop flowing, the sky may fall to the earth, but Karna will never be able to kill you. And if somehow Karna succeeds in killing you, then I will rise forth with my Sudarshan Chakra and I will kill Karna. Indeed, I will destroy the entire Kaurava army. Oh Arjuna, rest assured, you will not be killed. So Krishna is complete commitment. When Krishna says, Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dodhavrataha, he says that devotees should be determined. Determined. But then let me complete this point. That is 9.40. But later in 18th chapter, what does Krishna say? That he says, Ishto sime dudhamiti tato vakshami te hitam. That Krishna says that I am determined to love you. Dudham, the same word that Krishna has said that the devotees are completely they're dedicated to Krishna. Krishna says, I am dedicated to my devotees. Like if two people in a relationship, one person is wholehearted about the relationship and another person is half-hearted. Then the relationship will not really work. Both of them have to be fully in. So Krishna says, I want you to be fully in the relationship, but I am fully in the relationship also. So here we see Krishna's loving proclamation. And as the fight went on and on and on, then Karna realized that it's very difficult for him to win. So he thought that he could stun Arjuna with a series of arrows, and when Arjuna was temporarily stunned, then he could use celestial weapon. And then with that celestial weapon, he will kill Arjuna. So everybody is trying different strategies at different times. And both of them, everybody is one of them. So, war is a serious business. You have to understand what the person is doing, but also, it's like, when they are doing this, they are also planning the next move. If the enemy is attacking this way, so sword fight is going on, and enemy is attacking this way, while you are defending, also have to anticipate from where the next attack is going to come. And in defending this attack, one should not become in a position where they can't defend against the next attack. So he is planning that this attack will stun Arjuna. And that's what he did. And then he invoked the Sarpastra. Now at that time, there was Ashwasen was a Sarpa Prince, Sarpa Kumar, and he had been there in the Khandav forest. And at that time, his whole family had been killed. Now actually this Khandav forest had been dominated by demons from the lower worlds who had come in the form of animals. And that's why they had to destroy it. Some people try to argue this Khandav forest destruction shows that the Mahabharata does not care for environmental protection. And all this forest was burned, and all the animals who were trying to run away, they were all killed. No, why not let those animals live somewhere else? But they were not just animals, they were demons who had come on earth. So that's why they had to be killed. That's why Arjuna did that. So, sometimes to our vision we might just see an earthly battle, but there are many other bigger things also happening over there. But anyway, Ashwasen, he wanted to take revenge. And then he entered into the Sarpastra which Karna had discharged. And the combined power of both of them was such that it could kill Arjuna. Now, Arjuna was stunned by Karna's arrows, and Arjuna did not really notice the threat of the weapon. So he thought, my armor will take care of it. Or even if it hits me, it won't injure me so much. So at that time, Krishna suddenly banged his foot forcefully on the chariot footrest. And he banged his foot so firmly, the entire chariot sank into the ground. And because the chariot sank into the ground, what happened? That the arrow that was meant to hit Arjuna's neck, Arjuna went down, it knocked off his head. Now Shalya told Karna, target Arjuna's chest. If you target the chest, what happens is that if anything goes wrong, the belly is still there. And if it goes downward, the belly is there, upward it goes, the head is there. So, relatively speaking, in cricketing language, like a safe shot. But if somebody is shot in the head and they fall and die, from the military perspective, it is not as spectacular as arrow hits the head and the head flies and falls somewhere else. It's like a batsman. You can take a single and win the match, but you hit a sixer and win the match. Hitting a sixer it's memorable. So it becomes like a viral Insta reel. So Karna wanted a viral Insta reel at that time. So he aimed at the head, and what happened was Krishna saved Arjuna. And then Krishna told Arjuna what had happened, and Arjuna that this was the Ashwastra. But now, what is significant is not just Krishna's protection of Arjuna, but also here Arjuna faced the same plight that Karna was going to face. Arjuna's chariot went under the ground. Now Arjuna did not tell Karna, hey, wait, fight fair. Arjuna quickly jumped off his chariot and used his arms to lift the chariot out. Now, Karna at this particular point was so stunned dismayed that when the charioteers can dodge, charioteers can move the chariot in such a way that the weapon can be dodged, but sinking the chariot into the ground was like unheard of strategy. So sometimes the person just gets bewildered. What happened just now? So Karna was stunned. And Krishna is Arjuna quickly picked up the chariot and they got the chariot out of the ditch that had formed on the earth and they continued fighting. So then, finally, Ashwasena, he came back to Karna and he said that you invest me in another arrow and this time you will kill Arjuna. And Karna said, I will kill Arjuna by my own means, I don't need anyone's help. Now, when he was using a celestial weapon, ultimately he's using someone else, the Devata's astras he used. But he said no. Then Ashwasena charged himself, but Arjuna was alerted and Ashwasena came in the form of arrow, but Arjuna killed him at that time. And then they kept fighting. Now, as he was fighting, Karna started despairing. This was supposed to be his moment of glory. Just not able to win. But then he decided to summon some of the most formidable astras that he wanted to. But then he suddenly couldn't remember the mantras. And he started despairing. Now, again, not remembering the mantra did not mean that it's sealing his fate. That just meant that he did not have a winning weapon. Not that he had that made him lose. And then his chariot started sinking into the ground. Now when the chariot started sinking, Shalya pointed it out. And then, for a warrior to have the chariot not moving is a disadvantage. Especially if the opposite person is on a chariot. So then, Karna jumped out of his chariot. And then he called out to Arjuna. He said, O Partha, remember the codes of morality. Do not entertain thoughts that are entertained only by cowards. Wait till I am ready to fight with you and let us fight to the finish. And Arjuna beautifully lowered his bow. Now at this point, Krishna called out to Karna. And Krishna said, Oh Karna, it is fortunate indeed that now today you remember the codes of morality. Was it the codes of morality by which you called Draupadi a prostitute? Was it the codes of morality by which you goaded on Yudhishthir in that rigged gambling match? Was it by the codes of morality that you attacked Abhimanyu along with 5 other warriors and killed him? Krishna went on listing all that Karna had done. All that Karna had either done or had been a part of. And then Krishna finally said that, if all those were the codes of morality, then Arjuna will use the same codes of morality today. Now when Arjuna was speaking all this, Karna's head fell. He realized the truth of what. Now, Karna could still have had the opportunity. He could have grabbed his bow and arrow. When Krishna was speaking, it was not that Karna was caught completely off guard. There was an argument, and Karna could see that he was losing the argument. So this was speedy, but still it was there. And then Krishna told her, don't lose this opportunity. Shoot Karna. And then there is that immortalized image you may see in temple carvings. When Karna is next to his chariot and his head has fallen off. So Arjuna used a celestial weapon. And while everybody was watching, he shot. Now, all this was happening and it was so unexpected in many ways that nobody else intervened. Now, as I said, everybody had become a spectator over there. Everybody was watching. Someone else could have come to the defense of Karna. And Karna, he knew in many ways that the mantras that he had got from Parshuram were going to be lost to him at the time when he would need it the most. Now that did not mean that he could not do other tapasya and get other celestial means. You see, The one difference in Karna and Arjuna was that they both had their gurus and their gurus blessed them profusely till something went wrong with Karna. But Arjuna did not rest with that. In the forest, Arjuna performed severe austerities and got further celestial medals. So nobody stopped Karna from doing that. Karna knew that his destiny was his biggest life. His fight was preparing for the fight against Arjuna. And now, did he know that Arjuna had acquired celestial weapons? Clearly, that knowledge was not unknown. He might not have known exactly what weapons he acquired. But he knew, Drona knew that Arjuna has become better than me because he's younger and he has celestial weapons. That was, he had earlier spoken that also. So Karna, while he knew this was one of the biggest fight, we could say that situation sabotaged him. But it was not that the situation blindsided him. Blindsided means something comes completely unexpected. He knew this was going to happen and he didn't prepare for it. So it was not that whatever mantra he would get from anyone, that mantra he would forget. But the mantra that he would get from his guru for celestial weapons, that's what he would forget. So he didn't seem to be prepared at all. And yes, he knew his chariot was going to sink. So we prepared for that. Getting off the chariot at that particular time to try to get the chariot out. That was a terrible move. So here the morality of this particular action, I'll conclude by talking in 3 different parts. That if you want to look at the morality of the action of Karna's killing. So if we look at the immediate context, it clearly seems unfair. But we can look at 3 other contexts. Immediate means in that battle. But beyond that, if we look at that war itself, like I said, Arjuna was chariotless just a short while before. Isn't it? Then Abhimanyu had been chariotless. And at that time, Karna had not shown Abhimanyu any mercy. Karna had not told everyone else, say, let this fight be fair. They had all attacked him. In fact, so what generally after the 10th day of the war, basically what happened is that after Bhishma fell, before that also there were some minor violations of the codes. But there were major violations of the codes after Bhishma fell. So the exact same thing had been done by Karna. So Arjuna had been in a similar situation. Abhimanyu had been put in that situation and no mercy was shown. Now, if we could say that, beyond that you go to that epic. So, in one sense, more wrongs. Now we can always question about what is wrong and what is right. But more wrongs overall were done by the Kauravas than the Pandavas. Now, does that mean that one side is right and the other side is wrong? Well, if you consider the killing of Bhishma was with Bhishma's consent, the killing of Drona was an impulsive action by one person. Now, if you see what happened by this is that Krishna pointed out that you have not respected the codes before. So why should you expect that the codes be respected? Now, this is in the science of the epic. This is still a little grey line. Just because other person has done a bad thing, does that justify we doing the bad thing? Well, the answer to that is not a simple answer. See, there is yes and no. In India, we often ask people, now how do you come to Krishna consciousness? In the West, when you ask people how do you come to means, it's like people think it's the end of the journey. And then you just become a cult member. So you come, so we don't ask this question, So the word that they use, the word is told me is that, how did you encounter Krishna consciousness? So in India, the word encounter. after there's an encounter, then there is no counter. So now, now we could say encounters are extrajudicial killings in India. So where the police they don't wait for the new legislative process, but they just kill criminals. Now, can encounters be misused? Of course, it can be misused. But does that mean that they're always misused? No, sometimes some criminals may be so bad that you cannot wait for the law. So there are like sometimes the shoot at sight orders given. So now was that criminal so bad that that criminal could not have been arrested and could not have been tried by the new process of law? Maybe, maybe not. But sometimes the government may say, we don't want to take this risk. Just shoot this person in front. So the point is that sometimes for a higher purpose, certain laws need to be put aside. So there are, we may continue this with respect to the Bhima's killing of Duryodhana also, but I'll mention this, that in the Vedic context there are different kinds of nitis. So the best is where we have means and we have ends. So the means can be good and the means can be bad. Now the ends can be good and the ends can be bad. So now it is best to be here, that we use the good means and the good ends. So this is called as the Brahaspati Niti. Brahaspati is the Guru of the Devatas. Now this is called the Shukra Niti. Shukra is the Guru of the Asuras, the Danavas. So generally it is best to have good means and good ends. But in certain exceptional situations, to serve a good ends, not so good means have to be used. Now again, this fuzzies the lines. And then who will decide what are the good ends? And are these means bad enough? So we will discuss this in the next session. But the point is that in this particular situation, Krishna wanted to demonstrate a principle. That we can go beyond that epic, and beyond that we can go to Kali Yuga. So in the Mahabharat happens just before the start of Kali Yuga. So before that, in general, wars were fought ethically. One reason Parshuram got so angry with whom Karthika Arjuna and his sons was that they killed a Rishi. That was horrendous. That's why he said the Kshatriyas have to be destroyed. So that was an exception. Generally, wars will be fought between warriors with Kshatriyas. Civilians would not be targeted. So Krishna, in one sense, through his actions, was preparing the world for Kali Yuga. And in Kali Yuga, often we have to face opponents who are unscrupulous. Unscrupulous means that they will not stick to ethical means. And then, what Krishna was demonstrating is Shatho Shatyam. With the cunning, you have to be cunning. So, unfortunately, many of the Kshatriya warriors in Indian history did not learn this lesson. What Krishna taught, they did not learn this lesson. And there was this King Prithviraj Chauhan. He was attacked by Ibrahim Lodi and he defeated him. Now the legend says multiple times, but definitely at least 2 times. That at least once he defeated him, and then maybe multiple encounters might be there after that small encounter. But he defeated him and he let him go. And the idea was that he said, "Oh, I surrendered to you." And now if it happened multiple times, it just seemed to have that it happened multiple times. Now each time letting somebody go, the person is going to come strong. And then when he was defeated, Ibrahim Lodi let him go. But when Prithviraj Chauhan was defeated, Lodi didn't let Prithviraj Chauhan go. So the principle of Kshatriya, if somebody surrenders, you need to accept them. You need to you need to not punish them. No, that is true. But is that action being done in good faith? Is that person actually working in such a way that, first of all, are you powerful enough to counter the Kshatriya if they attack again? And is that person in good faith? Is that person going to see it as a favor, or is that person only going to see it as an insult and come back? So, just again, what Krishna demonstrated earlier also, that there is the letter and there is the spirit. So, yes, Kshatriya should follow codes. Following codes is important, but ultimately, protecting your citizens is more important. If somebody is attacking again and again, then what do you do? So, sometimes the means that have to be used are questionable. And that is maybe necessary. So when invaders came to India, many of them used questionable means. Sometimes they knew that Indians were Hindus revered cows. So what happened? They would put cows in front of the army. And Hindus said, we don't want to hurt even a single cow. But then they would hesitate to shoot arrows, but the opponents would be shooting arrows. And in trying not to kill those maybe few hundred cows, what happened was millions and billions of cows were killed later on. So that Shapo-Shatyam, it's an important lesson. In Maharashtra, there was the King Shivaji Maharaj. He excelled in guerrilla warfare. When the enemy is unethical, if the enemy has got 1,000,000 soldiers and you've got 100 soldiers, 1,000 soldiers, going face to face fight is suicide. So nowadays they use the word asymmetrical warfare. So the idea is that that's how he was able to survive. So yes, Kshatriyas have to fight face to face. But if the enemy is cunning, the enemy is deceptive, the enemy is not sticking to the codes, then does that mean we become unethical? Well, not that we become unethical, but our ethics should not, our dharma should not lead to the destruction of dharma. Our sticking to our codes of conduct should not lead eventually that there's nobody to follow the code of conduct. So there is a higher purpose that is important. Now it's interesting that Krishna demonstrated this even when it was not really necessary. It is quite likely that Arjuna could have defeated Karna in a fair fight. But Krishna doing this was actually preparing the Kshatriya warriors for Kali Yuga. That sometimes questionable means have to be used. And then, now how far does this go? And are there boundaries? So that is something which we'll discuss when we talk about Bhima and Duryodhana on our session on Monday. But ultimately, it is Krishna who took Arjuna to victory over Kali. And it was not necessarily the kind of victory that Arjuna wanted. Now, even from Arjuna's perspective, he would have wanted that all his life he had his rivalry with Karna, and the last victory is a hollow victory. Everybody is going to question, you won, you did one fair and square. But it is Arjuna's surrender, that Arjuna accepted that Arjuna did not insist. Arjuna did not go for glory, I want, Krishna, I want to win fair and square. So Krishna's purpose was more important for Arjuna than his own glory. So let's summarize what we discussed today. Mainly 3 points. Continued the Arjuna-Krishna duel. And I discussed 3 main incidents. First was their score. So we discussed our score line. It was either 1-0 in favor of Arjuna or 3-0 in favor of Arjuna, which was this. That Karna was never the better of Arjuna in any direct fight. The only incident would be where Karna defeated the whole world and won, but Arjuna could have done that. It's not that indicates necessarily Karna's superiority. The second was we discussed about the Arjuna Yudhishthira face off. That what happened was Arjuna became angry, or rather Yudhishthira became angry with Arjuna because he had been humiliated by Karna, and he told Yudhishthira told Arjuna that you put aside his weapon, you came back without killing the Karna. So then we discussed there is our words, there is the vow or rule, vow or the letter of the law, and there is the right action. Sometimes honoring our word, or sometimes not dishonoring, but it's rejecting our word, going beyond our word. So Arjuna unfortunately was here with Yudhishthira, and it was Krishna's guidance brought him here. So it was Karna and Bhishma who stayed here. So Krishna said that the rule is important, but the purpose is even more important. And then lastly, we discussed about the final battle or the final killing of Karna. So, was it unfair? Well, if you just consider the action alone, then definitely it's yes. But if we look at bigger contexts, three bigger contexts, that fight itself, if we see, that fight itself, there was Arjuna was in a similar situation, or that fight or that war. Arjuna and Abhimanyu had also been in a similar situation. So what was done to Karna was something which he had also done to Arjuna's son. And then if we go that relationship or that dynamic, that epic, that story, there were many wrongs. What the Kauravas' wrongs were by far greater than the Pandavas' wrongs. So, and then finally, that lesson for Kali Yuga, that sometimes we need to be cunning with the cunning, Shakto Shakyam. And sometimes the wrong means may be required to get to the right ends. So now that is what Krishna especially taught for Kali Yuga, because that Kali Yuga there are often enemies who do not stick to the right means. So the point is that doing dharma and doing the right thing should lead to establishing dharma, not the destroying of dharma. That my doing dharma should lead to the establishment of dharma, not to the, by my sticking to my dharma, I end up destroying dharma. So the purpose is more important, and here Arjuna's surrender was that he considered Krishna's purpose as more important than his reputation or his glory. And thus, while even from an ethical perspective, Arjuna's action is defensible, but from a devotional perspective, it is more than defensible. It is laudable. It is glorious. Thank you very much. Hare. Pursue the purpose of serving you and bringing others closer to you. Let me recognize exceptional situations and serve your purpose through those situations, and let me not make those situations as justifications for my own convenience. My dear Lord, dharma is very difficult to know, but I beg you for the guidance from without and within, so that I can stick to the path by which I can come to you. Hare Krishna.